This is Manal Bukhari. Our today's guest is all about connections. Stephen has spent his career establishing business relationships that offer value to everyone in the business, whether it's employees, whether it's the hiring managers, whether it's anyone in the company. His experience working in technology, business development, marketing has provided him with a deep and meaningful insights that allowed him to engage effectively and prosper within the business he was in. Let's hear from Stephen on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom. Hi, Stephen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited
Of
to be on.
course. Of course, Stephen. So, Stephen, can you tell us, as an like, just to give us an idea, why are connections so important to you?
Well, if there's one thing I've learned early on in business, and it was actually by accident, was I was working on a project and somehow some sort of software thing, and another partner company that was engaging with us reached out to me having problems, and I helped them. And it's the job, right? But I helped them. But what I didn't expect is they reached back to me and said, "Hey, we found problems," which then connected to another person. And before you know it, it went from just helping them solve something to 10 people get involved who solved a bigger problem. And the whole idea kind of, hits me that, if I help someone, they could, there's benefits back to me. And when I started working on developer programs and alliance programs at Citrix many years ago, I always treated the partners that joined and always said to them, how can I help you? And the majority of the time, the question is, well, I need to meet these people, or, who can help me here? How can I connect? And it's quite remarkable that in my career, connecting people has actually been an essential part of everything I've done. When I went into open source community management, as an example, I was at OpenStack. It was kind of the first open source project, a really big one that lots of companies that had never done open source before took part in. And I spent a lot of time helping people understand how to work in open source. And it was amazing because once I helped those people, they started going, oh, now I understand it. Let me introduce you to this person because he may be able to help us solve this problem. And before you know it, you get this spider web connection. It really is. And when you look at LinkedIn, right, and you say, oh, I have 5,000 connections, and who are those people? But it's amazing because I can go out on Twitter today, and I still use Twitter, and I can go out and say, hey, I have this problem. I need help. And I can get 7 people in 10 minutes, and people I may have not have talked to in 15 years who will help me. And I always think that if you help people, people will turn around and help you back. And always, are you willing to go out of your way to support someone, even if it doesn't necessarily make what's the right word? It doesn't really directly impact you, but it helps them. Why not help them? Because you never know when things are going to come back the other way, and it's remarkable. Just it's what it is, and I'm always amazed that people from my past reappear and say, "Sure, I'll help you," and it makes me feel good that I know I helped them. And we should all, I think, in general, all people should be more open to help each other.
For sure, you know how they say what comes around goes around. So, I mean,
Very much so.
definitely, as in, like, I can see that happening in your case. And I think if everyone adopted a style where they would be willing to help everyone, problems wouldn't even exist because everyone has so much to offer at the end of the day.
That's
So,
right.
in your
Everyone
case
does.
specifically, that worked out really well. So, I'm happy that definitely worked out for you.
Mhm. So one of the things that I know you had talked about the themes of helping people is last year, and I think this is a great case. I think I'm pretty typical. A lot of people in the tech industries, when the pandemic hit in the spring last year, lost jobs. I happened to be at a company that completely shut down, kind of before the pandemic, but I'll claim it was pandemic based. Otherwise, that would mean that my work didn't do so well there. So that would be bad. So what was interesting is, you go, how do you find a job? How do you, what do you do next? And I reached out to a lot of people that I know, a lot of people I've helped in the past, all those kind of things. And everyone had advice and connections, and they start giving people. But one of the longtime coworkers said, "Why don't you start your own little consulting company?" And so what he told me to do, he said, "Go do it." And then when you reach out to people, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a job or something," you say, "Hey, me, at the time I spent a lot of time doing social media, developer programs, alliances." I said, I do all this kind of work. Do you know someone that's looking for someone like me? I have a consulting company. I can do contracting on the side. I didn't come directly and said, "Can you help me find a job?" I just made it as simple. Hey, you know me, you know what I can do. Maybe you know someone, and started reaching out, and got multiple companies I've talked to, And then I did find one company that hired me actually to do some work for them. And it's eventually led to, where I am at Burst now. It led to a full-time job. But it was really interesting that, the person said, don't just go say, hey, I need a job. Can you help me? Say, I have my own little company, I can do this. It changes people's mindsets. So if someone calls me and says, you can help me find a job, that's really hard. We know people, jobs are opening, coming, going. It's kind of tricky. But when someone comes to me and say, I have a consulting company that does this service, I can go, hey, you know what? I know these people at this other company, and I worked with them a few months ago, and they were looking for someone that does this kind of work. And when you then say, I can reach out to them, and instead of saying, hey, I have someone who might be good for the job, I actually thought it worked better. Hey, I have someone who has a consulting company. Maybe it could be more. And it gives an opportunity for people to show their skills ahead of time, because I know sometimes companies are hesitant to hire people. And I get that. And so sometimes consulting is a great way in. But again, it just opens another avenue besides just, hey, let me apply and interview and wait. Now you're coming to them with a solution, with the service you can offer them. And if they like your service and it works well, great. Of course, the downside to it is if you get enough customers as a doing it on your own, you may never need a job again. You can run your own company, which is right a lot of our dream. So I do know people who've done this technique, and now they all have their own businesses. For me, working for a company it was more what I needed now, so I'm here. But someday I think I'll have my own company. You never know.
Well, hopefully that works out and you do have your own company because you sound very ambitious. And I
Yeah.
think one thing that you mentioned that's very important, as in like I think it's human nature that when you speak and reach out to someone, you have to offer something for them as well, rather than just being like, oh, I need this, because I think they're more likely to help you if there's something in it for them, which is sad because but I think everyone is so busy these days that usually the relationship goes transactional. So
Hmm.
I think it has to be that way where you're just like, oh, I can do this, and in return, maybe could you help me with that because I am currently doing this for you. So I think
Hmm.
that would be definitely a good way, especially if you reach out to someone for help specifically if you're looking for a job.
Yeah, and right now there's so many technology jobs. I keep reading all these technology jobs, but then I talk to people and they say, God, there's no technology jobs. I can't find a job. So there's a great mystery going on the work front. But again, if you had put in the effort years before and built a network of people and helped them, is it going to be the answer? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly, a lot more people. You have credibility, and it's amazing how people will introduce you to other people if they know you and have worked with you. Let me introduce you. And even in my job today, I was just on the phone with an old coworker from years ago talking about some new ideas, and he gave me 3 new people to contact. And so now, our business will benefit from these contacts just from talking to someone in the past.
That's very true. That's very true. I think connections at the end of the day, I mean, everyone's speaking about how AI is happening and everything. But then again, I think the human's ability to empathize and understand each other and willing to extend a hand is something that would just be personalized to humans themselves. And AI can't really do anything about that because at the end of the day, we are at the root of making connections and deep relationships with other humans specifically.
Right. It's still people talking to people in the end. I get
Yeah.
AI, although I always wonder if all the jobs get taken over by AI, then who's going to have a job to make money to buy the items that the AI robots or whatever have built? And no one
Yeah.
has been able to answer this question. If we keep getting rid of jobs, well, how do I make money to buy products or anything like that? So AI is still a bit of a mystery to me. Not quite as mystery as quantum computing, but if I was starting as a computer engineer or computer scientist these days, I get the excitement with AI and things like that. I just hope young people, don't forget that there's still more to the computer than people, and you still need to connect with people. And the AI technology is great; it can help you, but in the end, at some point, it's people talking to people and working together that really that as you said, will be the ultimate choice or whatever.
Of course. So, Stephen, last question. Where
Sure.
are you currently working? And if there is someone, for example, applying to your company, what would be one advice for them that would increase their chances of getting that specific job?
So sure. So I work for a company called Burst, and we're a software company. We're based out of Houston. The majority of our employees are global. I know our engineering team has a few people in Houston, but we have people as far away as I know there's people working in Africa, people
Wow.
working in the Philippines. It's a really global company. I work in marketing. All the marketing people right now are in the United States because it's easier we have to work really closely together. But engineering is certainly more remote these days and doesn't require everyone to sit in the same office. But we do have several jobs. One of the jobs I think is really interesting we're looking for is a user interface engineer. We've had our products for 7 or 8 years. They work really well, but they're not built for modern UI. It's not built for what people expect. And the change where businesses used to build UIs that were just for business, and the consumer technology, that was consumers. That didn't count. But I think in the last 5 to 10 years, this is a big transformation where when I go to work, I expect things to look the same as if I'm at home, right? If I'm running an application at home for personal use, when I go to business, I want it to be the same. I don't want to have these clunky, poor user interfaces. I won't make fun of any companies that used to do that. And so it's an opening for us right now that we're looking for someone. And, what's the advantages? I think one of the advantages is cover letters matter. And I know that a lot of people don't put time in cover letters. It's kind of a pain. I can tell you honestly myself, I applied many times and didn't do cover letters. And then I also did the cover letter. What's the right words for this? I would come up with a standard cover letter, and all I would do is change the company name in there and plunk it and go. And now sitting on the other side as resumes come in, I can tell, and people can tell. And I think put the resume is important, but you actually spend more time reading the cover letter than you do the resume. Now, of course, this is my opinion, but this is how I see it. And I think we should spend more effort on that cover letter. Tell us who you are. Tell us about yourself. Don't be afraid to say, this is what I really like to do. These are my strengths. I'm interested in learning these things. Give some, it's not personality, but somehow you have to jump off the paper. So I'm not just looking at a person who's, I did this job from this year, or these things from those years, and all those kind of things. And, maybe this isn't stuff you normally would hear, but I am certainly a big fan of cover letters. And I know that we have internships we're about to announce soon in marketing, and our digital designer and brand manager sent me his job request going out, and he has the whole bottom third discussing what he wants to see in your cover letter. So think about cover letters, less about the resume, because your resume is in LinkedIn or that kind of stuff, and we'll find out if you know how to do things. But who you are, that's what opens the door so that we'll call you.
Okay, as in like usually I used to think the other way around where resumes were much more important for me, but thank
Well,
you
no,
for
just
highlighting.
I'm given the just another way to think of it. It may be a more marketing thing than engineering, but certainly we all get lots of resumes. How do you stand out? You can't stand out by the companies. You need to stand out in a cover letter. So it's worth trying. See what happens. The worst thing that could
That's
happen
true.
is you get a job.
Well, that's true. And thank you so much, Stephen. Our time is up. It was a pleasure having you and learning so much from you, especially how connections and how just humans in general interact and how usually the feedback loop and how just like everything that goes around comes around to you.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that with us. And if people do reach out to me specifically in regard to applying to BRIS, I will definitely forward them to you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
I'm
much,
happy.
Stephen.
And thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Stephen.